Okay, the recording is beginning. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Lake, do you want to make the introductions?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome. You can't see us, unfortunately, because I'm a little challenged with the Zoom, but you can hear us, and I have a classroom full of students who are going to be listening and participating and enjoying today's presentation. For those who don't know, Artivism, the Power of Art for Social Transformation, was an initiative that was begun in spring of 2021. So over 2 years ago. And the idea was that folks can use art as an innovative medium for awareness. Artists can become advocates, challenging the biggest issues of our time. Public art capitalizes on the power of socially aware works, reaching people in their everyday lives and confronting them with social injustice that is otherwise easily ignored. Art has the power to move people to social change, from sculptures addressing systemic racism to murals celebrating Indigenous communities. Public art is making real-world social impact that deserves to be celebrated. As you heard a little bit earlier, if you're interested as a student, and you don't have to be a sophisticated artist in your own right, musician, dancer, writer, anyone who engages in creative endeavors can volunteer to serve as a student ambassador, and I can help you set that up. So if you're interested, just let me know. Today, we have a delightful student ambassador named Hawkins Lewis. He is an anthropologist and social psychologist who researches art and aesthetics, Indigenous religion, and settler colonialism in Latin America. His scholarly works have been published in the Community Psychologist, Art and Psyche, Hearing Values, and the Gallatin Research Journal. He has a long history of working alongside artists, and his creative collaborations have been featured in the Metropolitan Museum of Art Studio, the French Institute Crossing the Line Festival, Mildred's Lane, and Mildred's Complexity. Welcome, Hawkins.
Okay, I don't know. Is Hawkins on? I don't see him. I think if what I will do is introduce Timothy Long. And as we wait for Hawkins to come on. So Timothy Long is our keynote speaker today. He is a pianist, a conductor, and composer who is artistic and music director of opera at the Eastman School of Music. He is Muskogee, I'm not, please correct me, nation citizen from the Flopolaco tribal town, again, I apologize, and is one half Choctaw on his mother's side. As a pianist and a harpsichordist, Tim has performed throughout the world. Concerto performances include the Oklahoma Symphony Orchestra, the Chamber Orchestra of Philadelphia, the Lawton Philharmonic, the Beethoven Society Orchestra of Washington, D.C., the Sociedad Philharmonica, the Concertos of Mexico City, the Eastman School Symphony Orchestra, and the Eastman Philharmonia. Tim is passionate about his work with the Plimpton Foundation. I hope you can tell us a little bit about that today, which promotes the work of Native American and underrepresented performing artists through scholarships, grants, and commissions. Welcome, Mr. Long.
Great, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. I'm basically, I love the idea of artivism, and I came to it a little bit late myself, but I'm kind of here to tell you my story about how I came to this. So I am a conductor, pianist, and composer. I grew up in Oklahoma on the Muskogee Reservation, southeastern Oklahoma. I am one half Choctaw on my mother's side. I am one half Muskogee on my father's side. I'm an enrolled citizen of the Muskogee Nation and of the Thoptoko tribal town, where my father was formerly the chief. And according to the Declaration of Independence, I am also a merciless Indian savage. I've often been asked how I came to classical music, specifically opera. And really the underlying question there is, what is an Indian doing here? In my world, I'm most often the only Native person that anyone knows. And when I'm the only Native person that people know, I become the exception for these people. They still think of Natives as the other, if they think of us at all. if the majority of people don't know us or think of us, how can they see us as human? I always ask myself this. The answer is they can't. That's why it was just fine with most people that we had a sports team in our nation's capital called the Redskins until 2020. Now make that a different color skin and people are horrified, but not with Redskins, because they don't see us on the same level of humanity. That's why they could do it. In the Declaration of Independence, we are still called merciless Indian savages, but despite the efforts to eradicate and assimilate us, we are still here. And just for your information, I like sharing some of these facts. Currently, we are the only minority in the US that has government roll numbers. So we all have government numbers that are tracked, including our blood quantum. We currently have over 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States. In Canada, there are over 630 First Nations community throughout the country. At one point in the US, there were over 300 native languages spoken. Today, there are still around 175 that remain, but we're losing ground on those very quickly. So my story began with my mother, who grew up in the American equivalent of the residential schools. So she grew up in an Indian boarding school in southeastern Oklahoma. It was called the Goodland Orphanage. And she had terrible luck by having to be there. And then she had worse luck. She caught tuberculosis when she was in high school. Then she was sent to a federally run Indian sanatorium where she was quarantined for a total of 5 years in 2 stints. And yet she was a merciless Indian savage. The thing that happened for me is while she was in this sanatorium, she said, which, it was intertribal. There were tribes from all over the country with patients there. Excuse me. But she said everyone listened to country and Western music, and being Oklahoma, and she got sick of the twang. So she found a classical radio station. She wasn't supposed to have children, but when she had my sister and me, she only listened to Beethoven. So that
Does he
began.
even live here anymore?
So that began our education, really, in terms of sound, in terms of so many things. This led to a wonderful life for me in classical music, where I've gotten to travel around the world and meet wonderful people, but yet also led to a divided life, one that was split between being a native person and working in a heavily Western European art form. So I didn't know for the longest time how I could ever bring these together. And then in 2016, I was contacted by Pacific Opera Victoria in Canada about an opera called Missing. And Missing is an opera about the 5,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada, and how the Royal Canadian Mounted Police has done very little to assist in this. It is an opera that is about 15% in the Gitsan language, and half of the cast is Indigenous. The librettist is Indigenous. A lot of our designers are Indigenous. For me, it became like a birthright. I was around multiple nations, multiple tribes all the time, and they accepted me as a part of their family. We had so much in common. So for this opera, we did the world premiere in Vancouver in 17. We did a short Canadian tour in 19, and I just conducted the American premiere at Anchorage Opera earlier this year. For all of these events, we did private performances for the families of the victims. And this was a new experience for me and a new experience for them. These people had never been to an opera, much less classical music. But bigger than that, they had never been represented in public. No one had given them a voice. We would do these performances and you would hear sobbing from the first minutes until well after the opera finished. For all of these performances, we had talkbacks as well. And I never heard a single person say, well, I've never been to an opera. This is so strange. I've never heard anybody say, this is contemporary music. How odd. Everyone was just moved by the story that told their life story that had never been recognized anywhere. And I knew through this that this had to be my calling for the rest of my life. I've led a privileged life in classical music, and now it's time for me to pave the way for other people. So one thing that happened, at the final performance of the Anchorage Opera production, it fell on a day called Ashley Johnson Bar Day in Alaska. And Ashley Johnson Bar was a 10-year-old Native girl who was abducted, raped, and murdered in 2018. And it created such a ruckus in Alaska that they created that day for her in perpetuity. So the thing for us is that Ashley Johnson Barr's family came to that opera. Her father, Scotty, spoke on stage before the performance. He's become a spokesperson and an activist for missing and murdered Indigenous women. It was one of the most powerful emotional events I've ever witnessed in my life. In fact, I think it was the most powerful. We were all changed by this event. And we had talkbacks with the Barr family, Scotty Barr in particular. And I have to reiterate, according to the Declaration of Independence, Ashley Johnson Barr and her entire family are merciless Indian savages. And to this day, I make it the most important thing in my life to represent Native people wherever I go in this world where we're never recognized. I want us to be recognized. This has brought me back to a lot of traditional things. I spend every day on my porch smudging, recognizing my ancestors and my creator and asking for guidance. In addition, this has led me to create a foundation with my father-in-law. It's called the Plimpton Foundation. His name is Plimpton. And this is all geared towards Native American music scholarships and commissions for new works. So there is currently a prize in my name for a singer in the Cherokee Nation. I'm heading there on Thursday to work with the Cherokee singers on Saturday. And we've created a project called the North American Indigenous Songbook, where we're commissioning Native composers in the United States and Canada to create a repertoire that didn't exist. So if you get a chance, please look up theplimptonfoundation.org. If you need to reach me or have questions or want to find out more about me, timothylongmusic.com is my website. And I just want to encourage all of you to research where your people are, how they're being treated, and how you can bring their plights to the world through art. It's a very powerful thing, and it reaches so many audiences that we would not normally reach. Fight the good fight and keep going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Long. My name is Hawkins Lewis, and it's my honor to now introduce today's artivist, Brenda Perez. Brenda Perez is a Mexican, Raramuri, and Chicana woman born and raised in Highland Park, the historic Mexican neighborhood of Northeast Los Angeles. She holds a master's in clinical psychology and is currently a PhD candidate specializing in community psychology, liberation psychology, eco-psychology, and indigenous psychologies. Brenda's research investigates gentrification as a form of internal colonialism and eco-psychological violence. Using Highland Park as a case study, Brenda will illustrate how prominent community murals offering images of Indigenous Mexican cosmology and history are being systematically whitewashed as part of aggressive and violent gentrification efforts. In response to this erasure, Brenda Perez founded the grassroots project, Restorative Justice for the Arts, which was mobilized as an artivist platform to preserve, restore, and create murals, protect sacred imagery, cultivate healing through the arts, and protect cultural monuments and identities narrated through public artworks. Brenda's community-based artivist research combines Indigenous philosophies, decolonial methods, and arts-based practices. For example, Brenda has gathered testimonials and documentation of lost or whitewashed murals to spur dialogue, educate the public, and empower Native and non-Native communities to come together in solidarity using restorative justice to achieve truth-telling, advocacy, and community well-being. So I will be in the chat answering any clarification questions and sending links while we listen to Brenda's wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Hawkins. Thank you for that. Okay, just right before I get started, I would just like to spend a couple minutes just introducing myself. My name, like Hawkins said, my name is Brenda Perez, and I am born and raised in Highland Park. A lot of the murals that you will see in my presentation are in Highland Park, and most of them, just very few, are not. And either most of them were whitewashed, restored, or either threatened or saved. So I'm very happy and honored to give this presentation today, especially for New Yorkers. It's an honor. I was born and raised here. I was raised by a single mother, and my mother was an immigrant at the time when I was growing up as a child, and it was very difficult for us. We were victims of a lot of vicarious victims of a lot of violence. I mean, people talk about Highland Park being a rough neighborhood. Well, honestly, it was just the same as any low income, under-resourced and marginalized neighborhood or barrio that a lot of people, you know, experience growing economic injustices and more. But at the same time, it made me stronger, and it made me the person who I am today. And I consider myself a warrior. Stepped up to the plate to help my neighborhood, and I hope that I can inspire you today, that a lot of us think and have this idea that it takes a lot of people to do something, but honestly, it can take one, it can take two, it can take three people to start a movement, and you can do a lot of you know, really great work if you just have your heart in it. So again, LA is my home. Very deep Mexican, Indigenous, Raramuri roots on my father's side, and my mother's also from Chihuahua, so most of my family is from Chihuahua. And I really, you know, have that identity. Mexico is really close to my heart, as my mom grew up as an immigrant. Like, I was also, people were very racist and treated me like my mother. You know, they really you know, the racism was deep. The you know, the treatment, the mistreatment, the put downs, all of that affected me as well. My mom is now a resident, but again, I focused all my passion and energy in school, and I have a lot of knowledge and education to share with you. So I'm going to start my presentation now, and let me share the screen here with you. Okay. I hope you guys can see. Can you guys see? Can everybody? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Is everyone? Can you see? Good? Okay, awesome.
All good.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so like I said, the PhD, I have a master's in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University, where I specialized in culture and trauma. But a lot of the mental health system learning was very crazy, because I was like, wait a minute, the mental health system kind of hurts Indigenous people and people of color a lot more than it helps. That was my experience. So when I went on to do my PhD, I found this specialization in depth psychology, and a lot of the work that you will see that I have done in my research includes community psychology, liberation psychology, indigenous psychology, and eco-psychology. Very decolonial focused. Okay, here we go. So okay. Okay, I just can't see my okay. So decoloniality is defined as a stance or approach that seeks to rediscover, revalidate, and restore indigenous knowledge, cultural values, social and economical structures that have been displaced or suppressed by colonialism, and to decenter or dismantle dominant colonial attitudes and power. So what does that look like as in praxis? So praxis, we are putting that stance into actions, right? So they become actions, movements, and struggles that resist and refuse the legacies and ongoing relations and patterns of the power established by external and internal colonialism. Here you see a very special mural created by Egyptian and Mexican Amerindian women artists. We hardly see murals that are made by women and have women of color in them. So here is one that was dedicated to women all over the world, and it's here in Highland Park. This one was always also threatened, but they have become afraid of our community actions and think twice about erasing a mural. Here we go. Okay, so murals are zones for decolonial praxis. How is this so? So Walter Mignolo and Catherine Walsh explained that decoloniality seeks to make visible, open up, and advance radically distinct perspectives and personalities that displace Western rationality as the only framework and possibility of existence, analysis, and thought. Murals embrace indigenous knowledge, and I mean, as Tim was saying, we are ghosted. If anything, we're never seen. Our indigenous images are threatening image and basically go against Western rationality. So decolonize. What does delinking mean? Delinking means that you have to make a serious commitment to delinking from manufactured narratives and epistemic assumptions and or body of knowledges that establish and reinforce the Western world since colonial times. So making, memorializing, and maintaining murals can open portals for decoloniality, the survivance of indigenous communities and indigenous ways of knowing. Our murals embrace the land's cultural spirit of survivance and those who were there before us. This mural that you see here, it was done by the Restorative Justice for the Arts youth muralists. This was a summer program that I did with in the summer of 2021. Was funded by the Abacowanitz Foundation, and we were able to I was able to not only have a class with them and teach them about what decoloniality is, what the issue was of how violent it is that they were whitewashing our murals, and why it is that it is important for us to see them as sacred imagery and help to save them. And they were able to actually fix a wall, create and design a mural, and actually paint it with the community. And this was part of it. And we were helped by Xander and Bliss Fonana, who are also indigenous artists. Okay, so can everyone see the screen pretty good? Is it working? Yeah? Okay, so sacred imagery. Art is medicine. wanting to disappear history. Murals are a very important aspect of keeping this medicine alive. Remembering history is extremely important because it awakens the consciousness that us, remembering this history, this ancestry, this medicine. So why is whitewashing murals a sacrilegious act? Because our murals are artistic codices of ancestral knowledge and should be considered sacred. Not just, I'm talking all art, but especially the murals of our people. Our community art has the power to border walls in the psyche. Again, this is another part of the mural. This is an extremely large mural, and I have pieces of it to share with you. And this is okay. Here you see is a mural that is part of a very huge mural. It is at the Southwest Museum of the Native American here in Highland Park. And it's by Daniel Cervantes. And Daniel Cervantes is an artist that was born and raised in Highland Park. And a lot of his murals have deep Indigenous iconography and have been attacked, whitewashed, and threatened. And a lot of his murals are the ones that I had to fight and describe how Indigenous people have not only survived, but actively resisted the ongoing pressure. And after a lot of our community actions, somebody got really scared and was like, we need to bring this mural back because they're going to start fighting for it. And I think the movement of and the concern of our murals being whitewashed was really a big part of bringing and restoring these beautiful murals, as you can see. So let me try to, let me try to move this because it's in my way. Okay, so here we go. Here's another portion of that, of the mural. As you can see, beautiful, bright colors. This mural pays tribute to many nations, many Indigenous nations, and again, it's on Meridian, a street called Meridian, and it's on your way to the museum. So you have to pass this mural to get to the Southwest Museum of the Native American. And the sad part of this is that this museum has been closed. It was bought off by the Autry Museum, and it was ransacked for all its beautiful pieces inside, and it was forgotten and abandoned. And we're very sad because a lot of us kids grew up at this museum. In this museum, they had a lot of activities for children. And for us, again, we're very poor. You know, a lot of us didn't have money to do land and to do things that other kids did. So our parents took us to this museum, and for me it was like, it was better than Disneyland. As you walked in, it had a miniature model of how Indigenous people lived before, and as you walked in, it was just magical. It was magical, and it's really sad that nobody has taken the interest to save this museum, but the mural is still there. This is another part of the mural as well. So in Indigenous paradigms, psychological sense of community often includes relationships with place, plants, animals, and spirits. Here's another part of this mural. As you can see, it represents a lot of Indigenous peoples. Look at this one. This is beautiful too. And here is one showing how these murals speak the most heartfelt expressions and bring life to their stories. For communities facing indigenization statement, art making is a means for cultural and community survival, not just individual therapy. So I see through my life growing up, especially Mexicans, we're one of the most de-indigenized peoples of the Americas. Honestly, as I was growing up, I didn't even know I was Indigenous because my mom didn't want me to identify with anything Indigenous because she was so traumatized. She felt she was attacked, and she didn't want me and my sister to experience that kind of life. So she thought to keep us safe, she wanted us to be very Americanized. She wanted us to focus on American history. So that part of de-indigenization is a very big part of my culture and many others. And it's very hurtful and it's very damaging, because it wasn't until I found my true heritage that I began to do better in life and to really embrace my true self. So as of today, the most threatened and the most whitewashed murals in Highland Park and surrounding neighborhoods have been the ones that contain Indigenous images, right? And they're the most threatened. So again, in the book of in the Indigenous history of in the United States, we all know Miss Rosebar. Oops, sorry. She talks about how the doctrine of discovery is definitely alive, and it's basically used in today's laws, and to basically disappear the Indigenous, right? So definitely we are still seeing, a lot of people don't understand what the doctrine of discovery is. It's very important that you read and teach yourself about the doctrine of discovery, because it is very alive in law, and it's being exercised today everywhere. Again, these murals that were very Indigenous were the ones that were whitewashed the most, and the ones that we had to fight for the hardest. And again, when gentrification hits, they want to disappear the Indigenous. They want to disappear every trace of those who were there before the gentrifiers come in and take over. So here we see a mural by also the Restorative Justice for the Arts youth that we did in the summer for my mural and social justice class or program for this summer. This artist, her name is Blissful Nana, and she is a very amazing artist, and she helped the children actually design this. They helped her paint it, and we talk about that a dog that is very special to the Mexican and Mesoamerican people, because it's amazing. This dog has survived colonialism, and basically I've had one, and even its diet, like if you feed it pork, it's allergic. I mean, pork wasn't here. The Spaniards brought the cow, the pigs, and the rats on the ship. And if you feed this dog pork, like my dog almost died, my Cholos Guincli, and it's amazing how they have survived. And so for us, not only is he a protector on this realm, but he's also representative of Mictlan, the Aztec underworld, which the afterlife is a very important place as well for Indigenous cultures. And this dog protects you not just here in this realm of life, but in the realm of the dead. So it's very funny because one of my Indigenous elders tells me that Xolotl, he's named after Xolotl, right? And he's a very important Aztec god. And he said that if you mistreat a dog or an animal, that the Xoloscuincli will not guide you in the afterlife. So, so again, we have these images that are very powerful that our kids, our teens don't see. The jaguar mask. What does the jaguar mean? The jaguar is an extremely powerful animal and symbol, not only in our culture, but in many indigenous cultures. So they learn with these images, the sacred images, and connect, make a very deep connection with their roots. And it's extremely transformative, extremely. That connection for them has been life-changing, as opposed to just other very simple, very, like advertisement type murals that really don't connect to. So again, we have I just wanted to just say one more thing about this one, is that in the LA Basin was part of, it was an indigenous land, and to many indigenous people. So we see that this gentrification and colonization here is a lot more violent than the one that is seen over there in like I said, somewhere by where you guys are. As far as being Mexican, I'm speaking about being Mexican. It's extremely different, the violence that is experienced over here, and part of that is because it was the República of Mexico, and it's still present. It's still present. This still holds true today, right? And where we're rendered, right, as a terrorist of sorts that menace the integrity of the nation. So I just wanted to point that out. So here we go. This is I love this one. This isn't in Highland Park, this mural. Somebody sent me this mural because of the work that Restorative Justice for the Arts does, but I thought it was very interesting because I tried to look for the artist online and I can't find it. But this mural says a lot. It just speaks volumes, right? You don't have to be an expert in art to understand what's going on in here. So whitewashing murals is a byproduct of gentrification, neocolonization. That's what gentrification is. I am a GV survivor. I'm also a DV survivor, but domestic violence, and GV means gentrification violence. I'm also a GV survivor. And so I understand the violence. I have been through it. I am going through it. The traumas that I feel because of gentrification have affected me in ways that you cannot imagine. I am still healing, and I have to try to do it every day. It's I don't understand. I'm trying to show in my research that gentrification should be considered as a clinically specific type of trauma that we experience, because it is extremely triggering, and we need a lot of healing that the mental health system is not making available, and probably we will never. So research shows that gentrification is violating well-being. The Center for Disease Control problematizes gentrification as the transformation of neighborhoods from low to high, causing a housing, economic, and health issue that affects a community's history, culture, and reduces social capital. So yes, causing a housing, everyone here about I can't 50% of our tenants have been evicted here. 50%. All of the articles you see, the LA Times, New York Times, they're all pro gentrification, so they're never going to write about the truth. You have to hear the testimonios, and my testimonios as a GV survivor are valid because I'm a person, I'm alive, and I'm going through it. So LA is a tent city now. It's a tent city because of the rampant systemic corruption. These city council have been arrested for corruption. And there's, we have Jose Huizar that's in jail. We have Nuri, Gil Cedillo, Kevin De Leon that you saw, the audio that you saw. Even the president told them to resign, right? So there's deep corruption in LA. And because of that, LA is now a tent city. So everyone is homeless. The economic and health issues, how does that affect our economic and health issues? Well, we can't afford rent. We can't afford to pay rent. We can't afford $3,000 for a 1-bedroom. And what's happening is developers and now landlords are fixing the cosmetics around the house. But guess what? The lead is still in the walls. The mold is still in the walls. The chinches or the bed bugs are still there. The roaches are still there. So they don't care about the health of the tenant. They say, you know what? We only care about raising the rent. So let's put a gentry fence up and let's make the fence really pretty and look expensive, and we'll charge the high rent and paint the outside. That affects our health. It affects not just our physical health, it affects our mental health. Because losing your neighborhood is losing a web of connections. Your neighborhood is a web. And what happens is it destroys this web of connections. Gentrification is a very planned event. It goes for the heart. What is our heart? Our food. For our markets, our businesses. What did they do to the Native Americans when they came here? They killed all the buffalo. Why? They went after your food. You cannot survive without your food. So we don't have the markets that we are used to. We don't have the stores that we are used to shopping. The gentrified stores are too expensive. The gentrified stores don't have our products. And what does that happen? We have to move. We have to move because we need to go and look for a store that is affordable, a store that we can buy our food from, our nourishment from. So again, it's a very planned and very systemic way of basically killing your neighborhood and basically driving you out. So that also affects your mental health. So let's move on here. So then you see that the landscape starts to change, and Park, gentrified area, and then we had Silver Lake become very gentrified, and we knew something was going on, but sorry, it's Hollywood, Echo Park, Silver Lake, and then Highland Park. So by the time it came to Highland Park, we figured out what gentrification was and how this was displacing and violating our community a little too late. So Highland Park is now gone. Like, our community is gone. You come here to Highland Park and very few of the original inhabitants are here in the neighborhood. We have all been evicted or driven out. And then, so the landscape, again, not only your store starts disappearing, but the landscape changes rapidly. So you have Highland Park is a historic Mexican community, a neighborhood. What does that mean? When your neighborhood is legally historic, it has special protections, special specifications. You can't just come and say, I'm gonna buy this property next door and make it a mansion and build a super high fence where nobody can look in. You can't do that. You need to pay a corrupt councilman, and you need to test the land, and you have to violate environmental protection laws. So a lot of these developers are bribing your politicians, bribing your councilmen, bribing. It cannot happen without this corruption. So everyone gets paid at the top and we all suffer down below. Historic neighborhoods, this cannot happen. You cannot build 50 feet above 45 feet. But if you come to Highland Park, you'll see houses like this one on the left side. And then on the right side, you see this enormous mansion with a huge gentry fence, and it looks really odd. And in a historic neighborhood, that's why these laws are there. They're there because they're supposed to stay a certain way. So these gentry fences, these wooden walls, demonstrate the gentrifiers' disavowal, which Lynn Layton identified as the main. So this article, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to move on. But if I'm actually going to do a workshop on this, if you're interested, email me. This gentry fence means a lot. When I go to Chicago, when I go to Mexico and I see these gentry fences, it triggers me. My heart starts beating fast. I get depressed. I start crying. It's extremely psychologically violent for me because I know what is going on when I see these fences, okay? And these people that live behind them, guess what? They ghost me. They don't look at me when they come to my neighborhood. They know I was born and raised there. They don't look at me. These people, my neighbors, they ghost me. Why? Because you're Indigenous. Yes, I see you, because you don't mean shit. You mean zero. You're invisible. So this is very important, but let's move on because I'm getting triggered. So here we go. This one here, this mural, although it may not be beautiful to you, or some people say like, ew, but guess what? This mural was made in 1983. A lot of children worked on this mural. Generations of our children, of our children here in part helped not only create the weather and just and made it feel to fix it. And it was a very it was a family member. This mural here, imagine yourself with your little backpack walking to school because your mom can't take you to school. Why? Because she's so poor. She has 3 jobs. She works from sun up to sundown. So you walk to school and you see this mural, and every day you stop and you look at it. History books don't show you this. History books don't talk. Okay. And guess what? It was whitewashed at night. At night. At night, it was whitewashed. In order for you to modify, to change, or destroy this mural, you have to get permits from the council members and the Department of Defense with murals. You have to get signatures from the developer. Just can't come. The new owner can't. This was protected, and guess what? It was whitewashed. It was whitewashed at night because one of our community members saw them do it at night. And then we didn't find, because that community member ended up being priced out of her apartment. So we didn't end up finding out that they whitewashed this mural until I think about a couple, 2 years later. And this is the mural that made everybody pissed. We were outraged. When they whitewashed this mural, people were like, we don't know what's going on, but we don't care. We're too busy surviving. But I want to know what happened to this mural. So as I found out that this mural was whitewashed, I cried for months. And a lot of the people who helped me in Restorative Justice for the Arts also cried for it. And it's just, it was a huge injustice. But this mural, believe it or not, this mural made all of the community come out. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. These are the kids. This is an old picture. These are the kids helping Xander to restore this mural. Years of restoration and care and love for this mural, for it to be whitewashed. It was just horrifying. And not just that, Xander is the most iconic, like one of the most iconic murals of LA, muralist of LA. He has hands down the most murals in LA, and most of them have been whitewashed. And, you know, Zender even made a video about it, and, you know, it was ignored. So here is where the mural was. If you see the wall here, this is the site. All of these walls that you see had murals on them. It was beautiful to see. Imagine walking by, and it was no fence. We were able to walk up to it. There was no fence, but whoever white in 1933 investment group, developers that bought that building, which is now the Highland Park Bowl, and it costs $80 to go bowling there. Ridiculous. So then they whitewashed it, but guess what? They knew, and look at, they fenced it off. We can even go memorialize this. We can't leave flowers and memorialize our mural, because that's what we do, right? So here is when I said enough is enough. I want to know what. And I experienced gentrification as a category 5 gentrification storm, to describe to people like what's happening, right? So I can go to a neighborhood and say, this is a category 3. You guys still have hope. You can still save it. But once it's a category 4 or 5, it's gone. You know, just like Logan Barrio in Chicago, gone. Highland Park, gone. You know what I'm saying? Echo Park, gone. Silver Lake, gone. Hollywood, gone. So just gone. So why is this happening? Because the systemic corruption is so deep, and the hyper real estate developments are producing mass displacement, and that continue to feed LA's chronic homelessness crisis. So now we don't call it a homelessness crisis, we call it a chronic homelessness crisis, because it's chronic. Everybody says we're going to do something about it. Lies. Nope. Nobody does anything about it. More and more people are being displaced every month. LA, basically, like I said, was the mural capital of the world. Now with gentrification and widespread systemic corruption, LA has lost more than 80%. Okay, so murals are now being weaponized. They are starting to make a lot of money. Politicians and real estate companies and other people are starting to say, hey, let's do a mural over here, and we'll get $40,000. You don't need $40,000 for a mural. Give me $2,000 and I'll make you the best mural you've ever seen. So this is how we started Restorative Justice for the Arts. We came together to find out who whitewashed murals. Because we saw whitewashed standards, but we started looking at our other murals. And guess what? They were whitewashed too. Legal, registered murals, grandfathered murals, murals that had federal, state, local protections. Like, how is this happening? You know, protected by the Department of Cultural Affairs. What's going on? So this is when Restorative Justice was born. Grassroots community organization and artivist research project whose mission is to preserve, restore, and protect murals and sacred imagery, cultivate decolonial pedagogies of creativity, and protect cultural identities narrated through art. So once we started getting the movement and the momentum going, other neighborhoods surrounding us, because we're also next door to District 14, which is corrupt Kevin De Leon's district, right? Lots of murals disappeared there. And so now we see this rampant corruption. And guess what? A lot of like community members started saying in Lincoln Heights, in Compton, in a lot of neighborhoods. Guess what? Our murals are gone. They've been whitewashed too. So we began this movement to recover the lost murals of Los Angeles and sharing our knowledge on social media with communities far and wide. Santa Ana got in touch with us, which is Orange County. It's about an hour away from here, an hour and a half. They're like, Brenda, all our indigenous murals gone with no shame. They just erase them, cares about their protections, like gone. So here in Highland Park, the North Figueroa Association is a business improvement district. They're a nonprofit that use our tax dollars basically to commit injustices in our neighborhood. So this business improvement district, so how is this injustice happening so fast in Los Angeles? Well, guess what? I talked to one of my friends in Chicago who is the gentrification activist, and she goes, we don't have business improvement districts in Chicago. I don't know about New York. I don't know if you guys have business improvement districts, but here, let me tell you about business improvement districts. Basically, these members are very wealthy commercial owners, mainly white, right? Because as some of you know, there's a lot of laws that are still alive that go way back when, you know, Black and brown people couldn't own property. If you guys remember that, that is still existent. And a lot of the reasons why commercial owners are the few and the wealthy and mostly white is because of these laws that still exist. So in business improvement districts, in these associations, they serve on a local business under contract and funding with the city, and they make plans to displace everybody. Okay, so first they say, okay, we are going to whitewash all the murals and we're going to gentrify the neighborhood because we want these wealthy people to come in and we want to displace they called our art eye pollution. We want the eye pollution to go away and we want to make it nice and guess what? There's even a future gallery, which is a gallery, an art gallery, who are vice president and board members of this group. You would think that someone who values art, who owns an art gallery might say, hey, guess what? Let's not whitewash art. That's kind of like, that's not cool. But no, it happened. So we found proof. Restorative Justice for the Arts said, we're going to find out who it was. And we found out. We found out that it was the North Figueroa Association who destroyed the legal graffiti art that you're going to see here on the right. It was a legal graffiti and mural art gallery where you drive your car in and you see all of them. It was for our youth. It was open for all the street artists to come. It was a legal graffiti and mural yard, okay? Whitewashed, completely whitewashed, and it was illegally whitewashed because, again, you need permits to do this. You need permits, and the LA Department of Cultural Affairs allowed them to do it. And guess what? We have the proof. We have emails. We can show them to you. If you want them, I have them. I'll send them to you. Okay? So we're seeing this violence, you know, come along, and we're saying, wait a minute, who is the North Figueroa Association? A business improvement district? What is a bid? What is a bid? And so we start finding out. So we find out who the members of the business improvement district are, and we find out all this crazy racism. They have funding to use the LAPD to use force against brown and Black bodies. Okay, in Chinatown, they have a bid that is so notorious that they were actually beating up on people, on community members in Chinatown, and using the business improvement, and have video of the leader of the business improvement district of Chinatown also being extremely gentrified, using force against community members. So this article is by michaelkohlhaas.org. You can look it up. Very interesting article. I highly recommend that you read it because basically it tells you the power that business improvement districts have to enforce white supremacy. Okay, so now we're finding out that all our murals are being whitewashed, right? So guess what? The federal law, Visual Artists' Rights Act, is a state law called the California Art Preservation Act of 1979, give artists the rights to the walls that they painted, right? So guess what? The federal law supersedes all these laws, and no matter who you are if you paint a mural on anybody's wall, it doesn't matter if the owner changes, this person who owns the property or the wall that you painted on has to give you at least a 90-day notice before destroying your artwork. So that's 3 months. You have 3 months to find a plan to get the community involved to save your mural. So this is what I taught my community. Restorative Justice for the Arts started to spread consciousness about Visual Arts Right Act, started teaching our muralists and our artists and said, guess what? If anybody threatens your mural, you have the right, you have the right to get a written and confirmed 90-day notice. So new owners were coming in and saying, we own this building, so we're going to whitewash your mural because we own it now. Guess what? No, you don't get to do that. And I don't care where you live. If you're in America, the visual artist rights applies to you. So guess what? You have to have and give them a 90-day notice. So VARA provides that the author of a work of visual art shall have the right for life to prevent any intentional distortion, mutilation, or other modification of that work, which would be prejudicial to her honor, reputation, and the intentional distortion, mutilation of modification that the work is violation of that right, and very important, to prevent destruction of a work of a recognized work of stature. So guess what? If your community loves a mural very, very, very much, and you show up for it, that is already giving it a label of recognized, a work of recognized stature. And guess who can save that image? The community. Because the community has power. The community says, guess what? We deem this mural or this artwork as a work of recognized stature. Why? Because we love it, we're the community, and we have the power. The people have the power. So Restorative Justice for the Arts started to exercise and teach this VARA rights. And guess what? You might see our mural as eye pollution, but you're a rich developer, and guess what? We're gonna sue you because you have a lot of money and we don't. So you're gonna have to pay for the art that you destroyed. Well, they didn't like that. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay for destroying somebody's art. We caught someone red-handed while they were whitewashing a mural, a new owner from Texas. And guess what? The guy was telling her, I don't think we should be whitewashing this mural because it's a mural of an Indigenous elder, of a grandmother. And the girl goes, who cares? Erase it. Well, guess what? Because of Restorative Justice for the Arts and the consciousness and the learning of how to protect their art, we sent out a message to the community, and we saved that mural and we restored it. Here you can see more whitewashed walls. All that was color, all that was beautiful. This is the drive-through gallery that I was telling you about, the graffiti yard, the legal graffiti and mural yard for youth in Highland Park, all whitewashed by the North Figueroa Association Business Improvement District. What kind of improvement is that? That's not an improvement. You're not an improvement district. There is the proof that our community accepted this graffiti yard, and a lot of local and iconic graffiti artists and art muralists came and received this very well in December of 2000. Here is the article. We have legal registration. With the so here kids with that graffiti art. This was illegally whitewashed in 2017. Here is a graffiti mural in Los Angeles. Graffiti murals are very common. We mix graffiti with murals, and it doesn't matter if people don't like them. We love them, and guess what? They're work of statures for us, and we are very attached to them. So here this was at the Mural Gallery. This artist is Slow Motions, very talented artist, whitewashed. So this is the wall where it was. Do you see that? It was right here. That beautiful mural was right here, and it was whitewashed. So guess what? It was whitewashed because the politicians and the developers and real estate said, let's erase these people and let's do our own mural, right? So the community came together and they did an Olympic themed mural, but with an artist named Frank Romero, which is a very famous Chicano muralist and artist here. He's considered the Picasso of Chicano artists, and they rounded up 40K for this mural, and that, which is ridiculous. So guess what? The community came together and we're like, no, you don't get to do it. You don't get to whitewash our art and do this. So here we see more whitewashed art, right?
Brenda,
More sacred imagery for us. Yeah.
Brenda, 5-minute warning.
Okay. So here you see the vigils. We started to do vigils for our murals. Here is calling out to the community for help. Well-attended vigils here. The community. The cars came out to support. These are more murals at the graffiti yard, the only ones left. We made the news, right? Here are more news. We stopped Frank Romero's mural and it sparked controversy. So see, these are actions and movements that go against this settler colonialism, right? This is Frank Romero's mural, and we said no blood murals. Artivism should be about who's funding your mural. Is it corrupt money? You don't want to be an artivist if your art is being funded by corruption. That's not artivism. So yeah, like blood diamonds, they're blood murals. Art should never be funded by corruption. So here we go. The graffiti artists come together with all the community and say, guess what? Your mural, your 40 developer mural, 40K, we don't want it. We don't want it. Here it is prepping for it. Well, guess what? We don't want it. We don't want it. We didn't let them. The graffiti writers were like, no, you're not going to do your mural. So we're like, no, you can't do it. So they didn't do it. They got the message. So Cesar Chavez Foundation funded mural whitewash during National Hispanic Heritage Month. This is the grossest of all. This migrant farm worker mural was whitewashed by the principal, by the new principal. Okay, and they only gave us back 2 panels because the Guardian picked up the article, picked up the story. You can read about it. Gentrification, how gentrification is whitewashing bold murals. It's on the Guardian. Okay, here's the whitewashed wall, very long. Our mural, Cesar Chavez funded mural, foundation funded mural, whitewashed. They didn't care. This is our community that came together to fight for it at the vigil that Restorative Justice for the Arts had for it. We even had a letter from the Cesar Chavez Foundation by Cesar Chavez's son, Paul Chavez, to say how disappointed it was that LAUSD did that and that they're hoping they restore it. Well, guess what? LAUSD, they don't like to be told what to do. They're kind of like a mafia. You know what I'm saying? They're like, we get to do whatever we want and nobody can tell us. So we're only going to give you 2 little pieces back. We're not going to give you the complete mural. So these are the only 2 pieces we got to do. The complete mural is yet to be restored. But this is Daniel Cervantes, who was so sweet enough to restore it, a little bit of it for us. Here is the most sacred mural in Highland Park. Lots of Indigenous history. Was also threatened by the new owner. This is our mural blessing ceremony. 200 plus community members came out to support it the day Kobe and Gigi died. They still came out. And guess what? The community saved this mural. This is a work of art. You can't touch it, Mr. Rich developer guy. He got the message. So here's our mural being blessed by Indigenous elders. And my research is basically this. participant artivist research. It is a emergent theoretical framework. It doesn't exist in the westernized culture. This is by Restorative Justice for the Arts, emergent framework coming from with roots of democracy and social justice, which draws upon critical theory. So this is a sketch of emergent critical participant action research that combines indigenous, decolonial, and arts-based methodologies greatly associated with the tradition of liberation theology, decolonial pedagogies of creativity. So here is another mural by Daniel Cervantes. That is Xochipilli, the Aztec god of art and beauty and dance and medicinal medicines. And here we go. And that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Again, I'm open to whatever deep conversations you want to have. The deeper, the better. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation. This is a mural that we created at Yorkdale Elementary School with the kids and the teachers, and we invited all the community. Via's Tacos are the best tacos in LA. They got, you see 2 little trophies there, and the carne asada and the chicken and the blue tortillas is because they got #1 taco twice in a row. So if you ever come to LA, have a Via's Taco. It'll blow your mind. So also we are very proud of this because all done by Indigenous artists and children and their teachers. It's there if you ever want to come to LA to see it at Yorkdale Elementary School. But that's it. If anybody has questions or comments, please fire away.
Take it away,
Let me,
Hawkins.
Yeah, we can do a few questions first before closing. There was one about the 90 days that we'll get some information on, but does anyone have another question they want to put in the chat or raise their hand for?
Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Hi.
Hey,
Yes.
Brenda, have you seen any instances where it's extremely intentional, like directly intentional?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm wondering too, like, is there a concept that tends to be an area of focus of desire for whitewash, at least if you're aware of?
Yes, most of our murals that have deep Indigenous iconography are the ones that were targeted. The worst part of it is that they were targeted at night when community members couldn't see, mysteriously when they had the opportunity, because once Restorative Justice for the Arts started educating communities far and wide, they got scared. Now, honestly, in Highland Park, you can't threaten a mural anymore without the whole community coming after you. And that's what it's about, because the only people who can save art, visual art, is the community. That if the community comes forward and says, hey, guess what? I'm protected by the Visual Arts Rights Act. I'm protected by the state laws. I'm protected by local laws. Like they're going to have a really hard time messing with your art. So yeah, lots of targeting Indigenous images. Those were the ones that went first. A lot of those murals were restored. A lot of those murals, you saw that long mural. That after we did the blessing ceremony, they had the richest lawyer you can ever imagine. Skippy, they call him. And Skippy, there was no way we were going to get a lawyer and win, even if we exercised the VARA. So guess what? We said we're going to call upon the ancestors for protection in this mural blessing ceremony. And Mr. Skippy's going to have to deal with the ancestors. And they saw the 200 people that showed up, and they were like, oh, guess what? We're not going to touch your mural anymore. We didn't know that it was so important for you. So that's the power of community. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, it's profound. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a third of what I have. I could do this presentation like for 3 hours. Like I would need about 3 hours to show you everything, all the murals that were threatened, all the murals that we saved, all of the community actions and this everything that we did. It's so much. So much has happened. Anyone
Any
else?
other burning questions from the audience?
There is one from Choice. How long did it take to create restorative justice for the arts? This is important because we now have young people here. We had 2 classes. You didn't see them all. Some of my students were here. Dr. Lake's students, a class of about 24, had also zoomed in. I just want to tell you what really came through in this presentation is your passion, right? and hopefully, hopefully, I'm sure it rubbed off on at least, some of our young people here, our students. So yeah, you do have somebody interested in knowing how long did it take you to create this? Maybe they can, hopefully
Okay.
create an initiative of
Thank
their own
you for
someday.
thank you for asking that question. Guess what? We got so upset. Me and my sister had a Zumba studio that we had, a little tiny Zumba studio that we did Zumba for $3. And a lot of our clients were single mothers that couldn't afford expensive health classes in a gentrified area. So a lot of this community, I invited them. I said, I'm gonna have a meeting and we're gonna do something about it. All you need is one person like me with a big mouth and a lot of passion and a lot of love for community and art. And guess what? I invited my community. I said, we're not gonna stand for this. We have rights. What are we gonna do about it? We're gonna fight. Okay, we're gonna create a grassroots community organization, because guess what? Nonprofits are doing a lot of bad things. A lot of it, they're the bad guys now. They have nonprofits that say, Friends of the Alley River, you're not the friend, you're the enemy. Business Improvement District, well, guess what? You're not improving nothing, you're making things worse. So names are very deceiving. So grassroots is very important, because you have people from that are just ordinary people living everyday life that come forward and just say, we're not going to stand for this anymore. Just like a student says, guess what? We're going to organize and we're going to create this wonderful grassroots organization, and we're going to fight you. We're going to fight for our art, and we're going to be called Restorative Justice. So we are restorative justice based. We used restorative justice practices. We invited the principal of Garvanza Elementary School when she whitewashed our mural. And guess what she said? She called the cops on us. She called the cops on our vigil. And she had the opportunity for us to use restorative justice practices to make her come out and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How can we make this better? But she decided not to be accountable for it. Restorative justice takes accountability, and it takes a lot of courage for you to come out and say, I'm sorry when you did something wrong, right? So it just takes passion. It takes a lot of love for whatever it is that you see is being damaged. And it just takes a couple of friends, a couple of people that are going to be behind you and support you and say, you know what? We're not going to stand it for this anymore. You don't need to be a nonprofit. You don't need to be an LLC. As a matter of fact, it's better if you're grassroots, because a lot of those privatized companies, we don't trust them anymore. They're not doing a lot of good with all that money. Honestly.
Brenda will put her email in the chat, so you can reach out with any questions or anything. And we just like to close saying this presentation inaugurates Artivism's fall 2023 season. Next Monday, September 23rd, Grace Anyeza Ali, curator of the recent exhibition, Are We Free to Move About the World? The Passport in Contemporary Art, and featured artist Mona Borzogi will discuss the ways in which artists engage with the passport to examine its great paradox, the ability to grant freedom of movement as well as curtail it. For more information on this and all the series past and upcoming events, please go to the website www.adelphi.edu/artivism or follow them on Facebook and Instagram at artivism4shared humanity. That's also the YouTube channel, or simply Google Artivism and Adelphi. Also, if you would like to get more involved in this ongoing initiative, please contact the Artemis team. Thanks to everyone for coming today and bearing with us on the difficulties for this wonderful presentation. Thanks again, Brenda.
Thank you. Sorry for the technical. Mercury is in its shadow. so sorry about that. Thank you.
Carolina, would you like to do the takeaway before we close?
Oh, definitely. Before we go our ways, well, first of all, I'd like to thank our marvelous artivist ambassador, Hawkins Lewis, for his work today. Thank you for our speaker, Ms. Brenda Perez, and the audience, of course. Here in Artivism, we usually close up with a key takeaway. Just one thing that you would say to our audience members to take action from today's presentation. What would that be, Miss Brenda?
Well, honestly, the message I have for you is really look into your heart and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Fear just keeps you back. Fear is the only thing you should fear. I have faced politicians. I have spoken against their corruption. I have a file with my name on it, but guess what? It doesn't matter. Why? Because your time here on earth is to make your environment a better place. And art is a power. Art is power. And with power comes great responsibility. All right. And never be afraid to do art. Art is not just for the talented. Art is for everyone. Art is sacred. It doesn't matter if you are a well-known artist and if you're not, if you just do it for yourself, like I do. You do value art and use it. Be a real artivist. Be a real artivist. Artivism has to be radical. It has to be for transformation and for social justice. It can't be just because, guess what? It's cool and trendy to be an artivist. You know, be a true artivist. Go against corruption. Speak out against it. Bring about accountability. And it doesn't matter if it's, honestly, the best soldiers are the ones with nothing to lose. Straight up.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you to Timothy Long for being the keynote speaker today. Thank you to our sponsors, Sync for Hope, Gottesman Libraries, a Teachers College, Columbia University, Adelphi University, Carolina Cambronero Varela, Dr. Stephanie Lake, to our students who joined in today, and to everybody there. Thank you so much, Hawkins, for being our Artivism ambassador today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.